Good morning. My name is Kim McHugh. I'm the Vice President of Chevron's Rockies business unit. In that role, I'm actually accountable for all of our upstream operations in Colorado. Before we get started, I would like to give a few thoughts on an incident that Chevron had on a pad in Weld County. So this past Sunday evening, we had a loss of containment on a pad near Gailton. I'm not going to go into a bunch of the details on it. I don't want to take away from our panel. What I do want you to know is the source of the incident was a surface equipment source. It was not during our drilling operations, nor during our fracking operations. This was a newly fracked well on the pad. We are in our investigation state now and in the recovery mode, as Julie mentioned. When we have more information, I do want to share, because obviously we would not want to see this repeated anywhere else. I do, though, want to say something to thank the first responders and to the state agencies. Many of you are here today, and most especially to Weld County and the Gailton Fire Protection District, and all our other local government agencies that helped, true professionals, as we went through this. I want to say thank you. Many of you reached out, offered support, help. Just really thank you for that. The mission of this symposium is to help county and municipal officials navigate the complex planning, social, fiscal, regulatory, and environmental issues related to oil and gas development. One of those issues can, unfortunately, be emergency response. Thank you, Garfield County and Kirby, for continuing to bring all of us together to build those relationships and understanding. So now I want to kick off our panel discussion. So I am joined with some people who are very familiar in the permitting space, both on getting them and giving them. Permitting is a big part of what we do. And without permitting, we cannot plan our business effectively. So I want to welcome my panel. I'm going to sit over here for you guys. Jason Maxey, newly elected Weld County Commissioner for District 1 and former director of the Weld County Oil and Gas Department. Greg Deranleau, and you mentioned earlier, Deputy Director of Operations with the ECMC. Sergio Guerra, who is the Deputy Director for Stationary Sources at the Colorado Air Pollution Control Division. And then Christy Woodward, President and CEO of Astute Regulatory Solutions and former Director of Regulatory Policy at KOGA. So please welcome our panel. So again, I'll mention permitting, important part of our livelihood. So I'm expecting a lively conversation on here and some Q&A from you all at the end. But what we're going to do is we're going to have each panelist take a few minutes and make some statements, and then we will go into our Q&A portion of this. So Jason, we're going to start with you.
All right.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Kim. My name is Jason Maxey, and for those of you that need a little bit of orientation about where I'm from, we were the little red county that was on Will's slides, so keep that in mind. Proud to be from Weld County, as Kim introduced, former director for the Weld County Oil and Gas Energy Department, which was formed in mid-2019. So went through many meetings, many interactions with a whole bunch of different jurisdictions and a lot of you all in the crowd from the operator group as the department was formed in 2019, as we went through a lot of regulatory changes on the county side. And then, as Kim mentioned recently, transitioned out of that role as I was elected to county commissioner at the beginning of this year. So a little bit different vantage point and a little bit different level of involvement and engagement for myself these days, but still very much involved in county overall general policy and oil and gas. And it's something that obviously, as we saw from Will's slides, is very important to not only Weld County and our property owners and a lot of you in the audience, the operators who own assets in Weld County, but also to our landowners. So proud to represent Weld County today. Thankful to Kirby for inviting me again and for this panel, and looking forward to the conversation.
You bet. Thanks, Jason. Christy, you want?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you also to Kirby for the kind words this morning and for having me on this panel. My name is Christy Woodward, and I have spent the last 7 years as a Senior Director of Regulatory Affairs for COGA, the last year as a consultant, and I also do a lot of work for the Colorado Chamber of Commerce. I have been known to Director Murphy's comments this morning to make a brownie badge or two, usually related to rulemaking, and I will tell you I'm headed to the Air Quality Control Commission tomorrow to talk about fees for permitting and other related issues, and this will be my 43rd rulemaking in those 7 years. So no stranger to lots of conversations, lots of regulation, lots of the really good work that everyone in this room has done to lower our emissions in the state, to really show that we're an outstanding industry, a partner, and a community partner. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. I think we would all say, God bless you. Bless your heart, as my mom would say. Right? I'm going to go to Greg next, and then Sergio, because you have some slides, so we'll go with the rest. So Greg, if you don't mind.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Deranleau, Deputy Director of Operations at Energy and Carbon Management Commission. It's been great to already reconnect with so many people here in person that I'm so used to seeing in a little box on a computer screen. So this is just grateful to be here and have an opportunity to talk on this panel. I've been with the ECMC, formerly COGCC, since 2010. And before that, I had a 15-year stint in environmental consulting. As Director Murphy mentioned, the operations section of ECMC is broken down into the planning and permitting unit, the engineering unit, environmental unit, compliance team unit, and our cumulative impacts and energy transition team, as well as our enforcement program. I guess, do you want me to go introduce our sort of permitting process right now, or?
That would be great.
Okay,
Yeah,
super.
please.
So I guess just some background on our permitting process and where we've come to with these 47 rulemakings. They weren't all our rulemakings, excuse me. But we have been in a state of change since our mission change rules in 2019. And our mission is to regulate the development of oil and gas resources, deep geothermal technology, carbon capture and storage in a manner that is protective of public health, safety, welfare, the environment, and wildlife resources. Those rulemakings that we've done to enact that mission, many of them do affect our permitting process. So our permitting process has changed quite dramatically in that time. And our rules have been adopted thoughtfully by our commissioners in using the mitigation hierarchy of avoiding impacts, minimizing residual impacts, and mitigating those impacts that can't be avoided or minimized. And as you saw in the OSPB presentation, there is a reduction. There's been a reduction in permitting statewide, but our production is still strong in the state. One notable effect of our permitting requirements has been that there have been 76% fewer permits issued within 2,000 feet of a residential building unit since before mission change, and I think that's a really important change that we're looking to really reduce impacts on people and citizens and the populations in those local governments. I wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about sort of the permitting and planning process that we have, and it's not the days of grab an APD and go drill a well are kind of long behind us, as everyone in the room is aware, but that oil and gas development plan process is designed to be thoughtful, collaborative, thorough, and effective at minimizing those impacts. So we have pre-application meeting requirements, we have alternative location analysis requirements, all of these things designed to, again, avoid impacts from oil and gas development where we can, minimize them where necessary. Coordination with local governments has been great. Our rules require a pre-permit planning meeting. Many local governments, Weld County, Garfield County, also require those meetings. So we're able to collaborate with the local governments, work those two processes together, and move forward. Additionally, with our cumulative impacts rulemaking, we've added requirements in disproportionately impacted communities. And again, nodding to our two new community liaisons, Jessica and Stephen, who are involved in that process, engaging community partners, engaging local governments, and working in that collaborative space. All of that is designed to get us through with a protective, thoughtful permit that winds up before our commissioners in an approvable space. So, we've heard, cries that ECMC doesn't deny permits. Well, that's because of the work that goes into those permits to get them cited in the right place, to get them thoughtfully planned for, allows for approvable permits. So I think I probably went a little bit long, but I appreciate indulging a little bit of our permitting process.
Thank you, Greg. Sergio.
Yes, my name is Sergio Guerra, Deputy Director of Stationary Sources. Stationary as opposed to mobile sources, so basically things that don't move. That does include oil and gas, but also any other type of industry factory, I guess, that needs a permit. I've been in this position for about 3 years. Before that, I did consulting. I've done research as well, like air quality is what I love to do. I breathe it, I live it, I really enjoy it quite a bit. So I'm really happy to be in this position. There have been a lot of changes at the Air Division, and I've been able to kind of help navigate through those changes. And I have a presentation because I wanted to share some of the figures that we have. So there are two main types of permits. Before you construct, you can get an individual permit, and an individual permit is one that we would customize to the applicant. If you have let's say 5 engines, 3 tanks, 1 ECD, we would write a permit specifically for that. The other type of permit that is also kind of very convenient is the general permit, which is basically we put all the general conditions of a specific type of equipment, and then an applicant can go and apply for that permit. So we don't have to write a specific permit. I wanted to ask something to the audience. Does anyone know why the general permits are so popular?
Timing. So you heard
Timing, that's exactly right. There's a conditional approval on the general permit. When an applicant submits an application, within 60 days, they can start construction operation. That's something very unique, and that's why we spend a lot of our resources on general permits. So let's go into the metro. Oh, I wanted to mention there are 2 new processes that have happened in the last couple of years. It's the environmental justice summary. Basically, we ask an applicant to let us know what classification they're in. And then the second one is the model determination form. We asked an applicant to basically tell us, does this source attain the national ambient air quality standards? And there are certain ways that it can be done qualitatively, but also quantitatively, which is with dispersion modeling. So these are 2 key aspects. Specifically for general permits, you have to have those before the 60 days start. So just wanted to kind of mention that, which is fairly new. Here's some preliminary metrics. They're preliminary because our system is from the 1990s. And as we're trying to get the data out of the system, we're finding that there are quirky things happening. But the trends are correct. But I just wanted to kind of mention that we're kind of working on a data modernization project that will allow us to be able to pull out metrics more easily. But this is probably not going to happen for the next year and a half. But I wanted to start with the GP11, which is the reasonable, predictable venting emissions. This is a brand new type of emission source that we didn't know it was there. Back in 2021, it was decided that needed to be permitted, and we got an onslaught of applications. It caught the division by surprise in a way. We had to adjust how we do things, but what I'm showing here is that the first set of columns is how many GP11s were issued. The first year's one, and then we kind of increased quite significantly. Like 2024, we definitely issued a lot of them. The second set of bar chart shows you the processing time from submitting it to us reviewing it. But again, remember, for general permits, after 60 days, there's the conditional approval. So these are the numbers that many of you quote to me when I talk to you individually. Like, oh, it's taking 1,000 days to kind of get a permit. I just wanted to make sure that we clarify, that that's a general permit. And then we're trying to kind of get better metrics so that we can have an accurate assessment. I also did the same thing for GP 1 through 10. We have some for tanks, some for natural gas engines, some for diesel engines. So in that case, I guess the same situation happens. It does take a while to get through them, but we're not stopping any applicant from going and constructing, operating. And then we go into the ones that really matter, which are the construction permits, the individual permits. So basically, construction cannot happen until this permit has been issued. So when I looked at these metrics, I was surprised myself, I have to say. But in 2023, we got a lot of them, because of the reclassification. A lot of applicants, a lot of producers had to decide, are we going to be a major source, or are we going to take synthetic minor limits to be below the threshold of 25 tons per year for NOx or VOCs? So we did see a spike on that. But as we look at the processing time, it has gone down, not sharply like we would like it to see, but on the second set of bar charts, you can see that over the last 3 years, the timing has gone down. And then as it comes to processing time from the engineer, it has increased, and I think we talked about it, Senate Bill 181 kind of directed a lot of new regulations, so it's hard for the producers to comply with them, but it's also hard for us to implement them and make sure that we have a process in place. But overall, and then the fourth set of bar charts is waiting time. There are times that we ask for information. Maybe we don't have engine specification, manufacturer specification rates, and we don't get it. So basically, we have an event that says, okay, pause. So I mentioned that because if you want to get your permit sooner, you can get this information sooner, so you can shave off maybe 2 months there. And then the last set of graphs, bars, has to do with the logging process. How long does it take for receipt until that permit is ready for an engineer to work on it? And that one is quite significant, but it has gone down over the years. And once we have the data modernization project in place, that will be hopefully reduced to a matter of days. So just wanted to mention that. I like to show also inspections. We're kind of doubling the inspections, partial and complete inspections over the last 3 years. Same thing for LDAR inspections, means that we can go out there and basically say, hey, there's a problem here, we'll let you know and you fix it. And there've been a lot of process improvements. The only one that I will highlight from this figure, from this slide, is the GP12, which is a facility-wide general permit, where basically a whole well production facility would be subject to it. And I think here in the next couple of weeks, we have a meeting with COGA to show you how this works. We did some preliminary evaluation on that, and we were able to show that probably in about 60% of the cases that we looked at, the permit works well, including the NAAQS determination, basically the National Alimentary Quality Standards. That's what tells you whether you have to do modeling or not. So it's encouraging. We're going to present it to you all so that you can give us more feedback, but I think we're on the right track, and that should streamline the process furthermore. And that's all I have. So hopefully this sparks a little bit of conversation on the panel.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask a few questions, but I really want the room to get involved in this. Sergio, I'm just going to start because of your chart.
Yes.
Because when you look at how many processed, we've processed, went down a third on the, but actually the processing time didn't change too much from what you've seen. That one chart you show, the bar charts.
Yeah, construction permits?
Yeah, so on the construction permit, we see a significant drop in the number of permits being requested.
Right.
But really, we didn't change in the processing time.
Correct.
Very much. Any thoughts on that? how that can be improved when we've got less volume coming through?
Yes. Thanks for the question. That's a great question. We have less applicants coming in. Why don't we see also like an improvement in kind of the processing time? In 2021, we had 4 permit engineers doing oil and gas permits. 2022, and this is kind of like the story, that the agency has been understaffed and under-resourced for quite some time. 2022, we finally were able to fill 7 vacancies. So basically, we had 4 engineers, but we had 7 vacancies. So finally, we were able to find the funding through the legislature and different funding mechanisms to fill those other vacancies. 2023, we were able to add another unit, I think 5 permit engineers. So this is all kind of trending in the right direction. However, we're not able to hire like a consultant that has, 5, 10 years of experience. So we basically hire people that are really smart, and I'm really encouraged by what they do, but air quality is pretty hard. I don't know if any of you have done this, you should be aware of it. And it gets more complicated given like the new regulations, state and federal, that have happened. So we're going through that process that we have to train this new staff. And as time goes by, this staff will become more efficient and be able to have a higher production. That's one thing. The other thing that happened was also that we have the people that have experience have also to be supporting not only the training and mentorship, but they also have to be supporting this new data modernization project. So basically, it's being built from the ground up in Salesforce so that we can capture all the application electronically and we can process it electronically. So basically, automating everything. But again, people that know how to code don't know how to do air quality. So that's kind of drained a lot of our resources. But we're starting to see what I would say glimmers of hope, in the sense that we're starting to see that our staff, first of all, that we're retaining them, bring them in the door is the first step. But second of all, we're starting to see some of them really catching on, and everybody has a different learning curve. But as time goes by, we expect that there'll be a sharp decrease in processing time, especially once we get the logging process automated completely.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Christy, I'm going to go to you because you mentioned how long you've been in this permitting processing space. Would you talk a little bit about some of the things where there's opportunities that we might be missing in this process, both from the operator side and the regulator side, that you've noticed, things that we could do to maybe improve that process?
Yeah, absolutely. I think guidance is king, right? I think, from Greg, your perspective, right? The guidances that accompany the cumulative impacts rulemaking, the guidances that accompany the mission change rulemaking, setting a clear bar and an understanding for operators of what makes an approvable permit is huge at ECMC. At the Air Division, Sergio mentioned the intake process. I know that there's a lot of difficulty with procurement in the OIT space, which is the Office of Information and Technology, that leads to long lead times to get contracts. I think it really sort of ties the hands of the division and their ability to procure IT systems and things quickly, something we don't necessarily experience in the private sector, right? We can do something, create a data system, for a modicum of money in 3 weeks that may take the division 4 or 5 years. So I think the intake process is going to be huge. But I also think, generally speaking, Sergio, you also mentioned the 1990s data systems. I think that the process is broken. I think that the permitting process is very broken. And I think it's hard to stop and figure out how to fix that and then restart because we're an engine that's moving and trying to, cause development and move things forward. So there's lots of opportunity. I also think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity in the artificial intelligence and machine learning space. And I know there's been some work done in that with LDAR inspections and things like that. But there's a whole spreadsheet and a whole list of things that the industries have asked for, not just the oil and gas industry, but utilities, other energy intensive industries, in efficiency. And we're just starting to see some of those come to life, but it's taking a really, really long time. And in that time, we've seen these numbers really grow despite increases in staff And then the legislature has essentially handed the Air Pollution Control Division, in addition to massive regulation, a $25 million shortfall. And we're now looking at needing to pay fees and fines, or not fines, excuse me, but fees to help cover that. And what we're asking for is some transparency and a better understanding of what's going on to get to the heart of what some of those concerns are.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. The AI one is a really interesting one. Jason, it's actually for the whole panel, but thoughts from a county perspective on AI application, things that we can do?
Yeah, it's a good question. It is something Weld County is looking into. We're meeting with our IT director actually fairly routinely now to talk about AI implementation and how it could be used in certain things such as permit intake or review of certain pieces of the application. I mean, when it gets down to it, Weld County has always been a staunch advocate for local control, especially for land use. We really try to stay in our lane. We don't want to get into other items of the permitting that we are not the experts in. For example, for those of you that don't know, Weld County has a very definitive land use process for the oil and gas development within the county. We don't do anything subsurface. That's not our realm. We don't have the expertise. We let the experts do their job. But whether it's AI that could provide some efficiencies, staffing is tough for me, with all due respect. I don't think more staff is the answer. We're seeing numbers here that show a decrease, but yet it's taken a good amount of time to still permit them. At Weld County, we haven't added staff since 2019. We've kept the same amount of staff. In fact, we've decreased a couple. It's a matter of knowing what efficiencies you can gain, whether that's through partnerships, whether that's through understanding of whose role is it to evaluate certain parts of the process. I believe that there's efficiencies that could be gained in the current process if we would just work with each other and not so much against each other, it seems like. And that's something I've said for many years now. I've talked to a lot of various contacts in state agencies along with operators, and that's been something that's been consistent for me for years now.
Yeah, no, Jason, I appreciate it because I saw the comment, the barrel per person, like it's gone steadily down. Those direct jobs are probably more related to the operators and the service providers in the room. Would be curious to see from a regulatory standpoint, what does that per person per barrel type of number look like? Because it's probably gone in the opposite direction.
Right.
Greg, any thoughts on the AI part of this? Because I know you guys have been working on an efficiency, which I think we'd all like to hear what progress has been made in. I know you guys brought some consultants in to look at that process. So could you share with us maybe some of the advances we're making or where there's more opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, with respect to AI specifically, I mean, we sort of operate with a firewall. There's things that engage with our data and data systems from the operator side, from the outside in, and then there's our inside world. As Christy mentioned, our IT department is the Governor's Office of Information Technology, which serves the entire state. Yeah. Obviously CDPHE is in the same realm, and I would say they're not in place to be sort of on the cutting edge and taking those risks and innovating. They're they're there to support a staff of many thousands of people in their day-to-day business. So we really look and seek for those sort of external partners to really drive that innovation. Like how can they look at what they're putting together in permits and find efficiencies and how they could leverage that technology, machine learning and things to really improve what's coming in the door through the firewall. And I think we would be happy always to partner with someone who's like, hey, I've got this innovative way of rethinking the way we're doing this part of our process. How does that work for you guys? And can we still intake that and make sure that we're getting quality permits that, as Sergio said, don't have to go back to the operator for rework because they got the wrong engine number on your permits, or they got the wrong location or surrounding location number on our permits. So eliminating those errors, I think, is huge, because that back and forth in anyone's timeline is just a huge time sink, right? Like anytime it goes back, we've got a requirement that if we send something back to the operators, they've got 90 days to repair. Well, that's 90 days that we're not processing their permit, and we're working on other things. And then they come back at day 89 because that 90 days is on top of them, and they submit the exact same data.
Yeah.
Well, all we've done there is lost 90 days.
Yeah. Do you guys have metrics on that? Like, is that something you can share with his operator? How often does it come back? What is it coming back for? How long do we sit on it? Because data on that would be very helpful, because I think for all of us who are getting our permits in, if there is a repeated failure, obviously we want to fix it. Because I know for us, we are trying to apply AI in our own business anywhere we can for those type of things that human error can be made. But I haven't seen statistics from what does this really look like? How often is it returned because we've made an error or replaced? Is that data y'all can share? Do you track it?
I put it on my slide, but yeah, like I cannot see the numbers, but there's, I think it's about 2 months on average that we wait on an applicant. But as you know, like the average can be skewed. You know, if someone takes 100 days, you know, like all of that. So we haven't dug into this, the statistics so closely to see, like, is it a specific producer, is it like a specific area, all of that. But we do track that.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful. I know as an operator, I would love that information for our company so we can make sure that we are putting things in that can go through the process smoother. You know, I appreciate your comment on more or past, because there is so much work done up front. But if we can do that work faster, then the whole process. I'm going to ask one more question, but I need you guys to get ready because it's your turn. So, Jason, you mentioned, you know, working like the county, working with, what are some things or some areas? Because for us, a lot of times, different agencies, same data, just want it in a different format. Is there an opportunity between the county and the state and all for a format, a way to have information so we're not creating, you know, a lot of different information? You get what you need, but we can get everybody what they need. Do you see those kind of opportunities from your perspective?
Yeah, thank you, Kim. I definitely see those type of opportunities. I mean, we've been talking about this for years. The whole point of, I guess in my opinion, some of the point of how the rules are written was to allow deferral or substantially equivalent information to be provided by the local jurisdiction in their permitting process and to be accepted by the state. Quite frankly, again, this shouldn't surprise anybody, including my fellow panelists here, because we've talked about this at length. A lot of us in the room have talked about this at length. That is not being done. When a noise plan gets submitted, and the state rules specifically say that noise plan can be the exact same plan as long as the state accepts it, that's a point of confusion. Why are we taking two people's times to review the exact same plan when it clearly says that through the local jurisdiction, if we approve it, the state can accept it? We don't need to take that time to review that plan. There are so many others that are in the state rules. And again, we stay with land use, lights, noise, traffic, dust, odor, things like that. If there is an opportunity to collaborate, there's been multiple meetings that I've been on that I've been asked, we need to provide a map. We need to provide a map to the state and to you guys. Are you guys, Weld County, okay with us providing state information on the same map and you guys, Weld County, accepting it? The answer has always been, of course. Many of you in the audience know that the state has a working pad definition. We don't go by working pad. We have an oil and gas location definition. They are different boundaries. There is no reason you can't show those two boundaries on one map and that we should both be able to accept it. The same goes for lighting plans, noise plans. One plan should suffice, and there should be the allowance to not spend two people's time or two entities' time to review it, to be efficient and effective with our permitting process, to help the operators out, to get these permits through so that we can continue to move forward and not waste time on things that we don't need to waste time on.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah,
I just wanted to add one thing on the sort of back and forth. I think that's another place where AI or machine learning would be important. But I think, you know, we see at the Air Division, things being sent back because they're recalculating emissions that go into a permit. And I've seen emails of back and forth to like 1/100th of a decimal place. So there's also like, those comments have to be important and relevant to the process for the protection of the environment. And I think we've seen the same thing at ECMC. Like I've seen some back and forth on like, is the north arrow pointed to the left or up? And like, that's, you know, for consistency with the local government, it's like, those are the types of things where, and it's not always like that, most comments are substantive, but I think that's an area where we can see improvement. You know, if you've got a tank and you've got a throughput and you see that same thing over and over and over again, there's got to be a range of which those emissions are acceptable, right?
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of opportunity. That's just one example, and it's a little weedy, but I think it's important. That back and forth can be really frustrating.
Yeah, because you can use people in a different way that they're not, you know, working with that.
Can I just add one comment regarding, you know, that collaborative work that we do with local governments? You know, absolutely, we're trying to build those efficiencies in our processes. We're also, you know, as a state regulatory agency, we're dealing with, you know, very sophisticated local governments, less sophisticated local governments, a variety of operator calibers in terms of, you know, how they're accustomed to submitting permits. And so I think, you know, in order to maintain, you know, a really level playing field across the state and across basins and across operators, we really do have to make sure that our permitting process is applied, you know, regardless of what local jurisdiction you know, the operator is proposing to work within, but making sure that we're, you know, absolutely taking those common plans, working together with them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to, you know, defer our review of data that we need to ensure that our statutory mandate is protective and met.
Any questions from the room? Because you guys are killing me.
Yeah, there's one. There's one.
Sorry if I took my glasses off. Please.
Go back to them.
The
microphone's
are in the
back here.
Sorry, they're at the post.
Please come back here to these posts for the microphone for
Or
questions.
shout it out and we can repeat it.
Yeah.
Don't y'all be shy.
Steve Soychek, Colorado Mesa University. So Sergio, I respect your chart there showing how permitting time has decreased. But Christy, you might be able to answer this question. Go back 10 or 20 years. I don't remember an APEN or construction permitting taking a year, I guess. So we had a lot more drilling activity back then, a lot more permits going on. So what's the difference? Why we're less efficient?
Thank you. No, that's the question that we're always trying to answer. The regulations are much more complicated. That's just the nature of it. You know, like one of the previous talks mentioned how Colorado is an innovator, like at the vanguard of a lot of these things. When you're the first one, you're paving the way for everybody else. So we're basically making the job easier for other states in a way by kind of coming up with different regulation strategies and things to do. So that's one. The other one is the one that I mentioned, that it's just been really a slow process as it comes to training new staff. Air quality is not easy. I was in consulting. Someone doing air quality charges a higher rate, as hourly rate, because it's more complicated. And then something very particular of the state is that we are in the spotlight as it comes to environmental groups that have challenged our permits. And there have been petitions on Title V permits that have affected construction permits as well. So basically, the previous EPA has granted a lot of petitions that are things that we had never seen before. It happened with the ECDs, the emission enclosed combustion devices, that for years we had been using the 95% destruction efficiency. And EPA came in and granted a petition that said, well, now you had to prove that is being achieved. And that's something that nowhere in the country has been brought up. So basically that stopped a lot of our permits because we didn't want them to go through that process, you know? So we had to work with our lawyers, the Attorney General's office, we had to work with our technical staff to figure that out. So all of this contributes to that. And again, we have digital accessibility also. We had the perfect storm. I mean, like all these rules came together at the same time. New staff, we tend to train them and say, well, the playing field is changing. So what was true, like you said, 10 years ago is not true anymore. But I have confidence that these timelines are going to be reduced. As it comes to the logging time is extremely long. It shouldn't take that long for an application to just go through the process of billing, records, and emissions. So again, we're working right now, we're in the middle of the process of turning that into Salesforce. So that when you press go, when you pay your fee and you accept, sign your application, all of that is automated. So that would kind of reduce like hundreds of days right there. So I know it's frustrating for many of you. The permitting process is frustrating for me as well, but we're doing everything we can. And speaking about AI, that's where we can collaborate together. So if you guys have ideas, I mean, if there's an AI out there that you can give it an application and it spits out a permit, come talk to me, because we'll push that through, you know? We'll make sure that we get the right people to agree to allow us to use AI for that purpose. And I don't know, I mean, it's an exciting time, and I think AI eventually will get there. But if you have ideas of how to expedite the process, if you're using AI, you have more freedom to use AI. That's what Greg was saying. We have very limited ability to use AI. If you're using it and you're finding successful uses of it that would be helpful to us, come talk to us.
So we're more than happy to talk, but we also how is that going to benefit? We invest a lot in AI to make something better. You would want to see the processing time. Something has to get better on the output side. So I think that's where we would really like to talk, because I know for Chevron, we are very open to having that and have brought it up. Director Murphy's been very kind to talk to us about it. But again, the output side has to improve also. So not a decision to be made today, but that's part of, I think, the process.
I think one place, just if I can comment on that, I think one place that we would expect to see improvements is that, you know, things that are getting sent back in the early stages of permit review from our perspective. I mean, there's a lot of unforced errors in the permits that we are submitting. And this is by no means offense to, you know, the consultants that are putting together the work that they're putting together, you know, but we are humans. Yeah. We're seeing, you know, thousands of forms coming in the door. And in those thousands of forms, there are many errors that our humans on the inside are able to see and push back. But right there, if some of those sort of low-hanging fruit errors could get improved in that process, I think that would see improvements right on the front end.
Yeah, I think knowing those, then we can obviously address either through AI or improvements. Any more questions? Yes, thank you.
I'm Jim Yelico, the Garfield County assessor. So my expertise would be in property valuation, oil and gas valuation, ad valorem taxation, and that sort of thing. The question about well sites, I assume all well sites aren't the same. All well permits aren't the same. So a well permit in Weld County near more population wouldn't be the same as a well permit in the Piceance Basin, maybe up in Debec. Is there a different pathway for those permits to be reviewed, or is everything reviewed the same?
So from ECMC's perspective, there are some opportunities for streamlining the permits. I forget the technical term off the top of my head, but it's basically a lesser impact area that we call it. And so if you are well away from human population receptors, from significant environmental receptors, et cetera, then yes, you can apply for a lesser area exemption and lesser impact area exemption, and you have to submit fewer documents and things like that. So that does streamline. You know, but every area comes with its unique challenges, right? Like there's more wildlife considerations in some areas where there aren't human populations there, you know, and so there's trade-offs to that. But yes, there are some opportunities for streamlining.
Is there any metric that would show the time in permits, how that's changed over the years for those different areas that are less populated or more streamlined?
I don't know that we've made the effort to break it out like that.
Thank you.
Let me just answer real quick too, if I may.
Yeah.
It's a good question, and let alone is it not only different from obviously where we're at on the east side, over here to the west slope. I mean, southwest Weld County to northeast Weld County is vastly different, and there's different things. And one thing that I have always prided Weld County on, and the department for the oil and gas department, is that we look at things very uniquely, very specifically, site specific. We look at all the considerations for that one permit. We don't cookie cutter anything. Rules are there for a reason. It's a general outline of process and how to follow things. But again, I'm going to go back, as any local jurisdiction would, who respects their land use case. And this is by any means disparaging. Greg or staff or anything, because they're following their process as well. But I think there are unique opportunities within the current process to again say, here are the rules, here's what the rules say, and how can we work together to help streamline the time frame, to your point, because there are unique factors of different areas of the state. And the state has to be that umbrella agency for their area, right? But what does the local jurisdiction do? And I'm sorry, I'm going to point back to the stats. When Weld County has easily over 50% of the active permits, when we have 80% of the oil production, there is a lot of uniqueness in Weld County compared to other areas of the state. And how can we interact with the state? How can you and your jurisdiction interact with the state to do what's best for what your local jurisdiction wants and your local residents, so that you can either accomplish the goal of more development and production, or if you're a jurisdiction that doesn't want it, fine. Senate Bill 181 allowed you to do that. It allowed the local jurisdiction to have more control and more say-so and to partner with the state agency. But let's actually do that. Let's actually move these things through and take that as the uniqueness, not necessarily the regional, east or west or anything. Let's look specifically within your jurisdiction.
Okay, Kirby, that's the signal. I'm getting the hook.
Got the signal.
Yeah, no. It's fascinating. And look, I want to say thank you, because this is obviously a very important topic to all of us on all sides. And I think what we've shown, it's going to take that collaboration. I think it's going to take action. I think I've been here and we've talked about permitting and how long it's taken and what we need to do. So, we want to partner. Just closing thought. My concern, we showed the economics chart on here and the activity and how that is starting to flatten, potentially reduce in the state. So my fear is we're going to create a regulatory machine that in the future won't have anything to regulate. So I think we really have got to get ahead of this, whether it's through AI and things like that. A study was shared with me from the Common Sense Institute, and I believe we went down 13,000. Right, Chad, private sector roles last year, and the government jobs went up 15,000. So there's a challenge there that we really do need to talk about, and how we can help. We need to be a part of the solution together. So Kirby, thank you to the panel so much for the
Round of applause for these folks.